Do any of these situations sound familiar? A co-worker, whom you consider your friend, has always dismissed your suggestions and ideas and started discrediting you to anyone who is willing to listen. Your partner says cruel things to you, and when you object, they either say, "You're too sensitive," or they shut down and refuse to talk. Your father has turned up the volume on making you feel bad no matter what. A friend of yours makes hurtful comments disguised as jokes. You're constantly criticized about your appearance, decisions, or lifestyle. A friend who always makes you feel guilty for not being able to spend enough time together. If it has happened to you, right? Did you think they were normal attitudes? Well, they are not. People who exhibit toxicity in their interactions can be manipulative, either subtly or overtly, and often display self-centered, dependent, or controlling traits. These characteristics can result in behaviors that are perceived as unpleasant or harmful toward others. Such attitudes may stem from poor self-esteem or psychological disorders, such as narcissistic personality disorder, traumatic childhood experiences, or other significant personal problems. Additionally, studies indicate that individuals with toxic behaviors may possess what are known as dark core personality traits, which imply a predisposition to prioritize their own goals and interests above others, justifying their actions to avoid feelings of guilt or shame. However, the existence of underlying motivations for toxicity does not minimize its negative impact. If one is on the receiving end of such behaviors, it can result in a confusing and painful experience and potentially lead the affected person to question their own guilt. There are several signs to look out for that may indicate that you are dealing with a person whose behavior could be considered toxic. I'll help you recognize them in this video, and I'll also give you the tools so that you can intelligently deal with these types of people. But first, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. This way you will be informed when I upload more videos like this. And if a friend, family member, or partner is being subdued by a toxic person, share this video in order to get them out of that undeniable abyss. Now, without further ado, start. Toxic behaviors can be difficult to identify, but they are usually recognized by the negative impact they have on our emotions and psychological well-being. Interacting with a person who exhibits these types of behaviors can lead us to feel confused, insecure, exhausted, angry, or anxious. It is common for our self-esteem to be affected, and for us to feel a constant need to offer help, despite our own limits being ignored or manipulated. Red flags include a constant presence of drama in the person's life, a manipulative ability that we often don't recognize until we see it applied to others, a constant judgment of others, a suffocating need for attention that is not reciprocated, and an inability to recognize oneself as part of the problem. In the case of toxic positivity, there is a refusal to accept the existence of real challenges, maintaining an excessively positive attitude. Now, how should we treat these toxic people? Well, here I give you all the tools. Each one needs to be taken into account, and no, it is not going to be an enumeration in order of importance, but an enumeration of tools. They are all important, so I recommend you pay close attention to them. Strategy number 1. Set boundaries without guilt. In relationships with people who exhibit toxic behaviors, setting clear boundaries is crucial to protecting your mental and emotional health. However, this process can be marred by guilt, especially when it comes to family members or people you've had a close relationship with. It's important to remember that your well-being is your responsibility. Feeling guilty about setting healthy boundaries is a common response, but it's not healthy or fair to yourself. You may be wondering, what can I do to set limits or stay away from this type of person? Toxic people tend to create drama and thrive on negative emotions. Avoid getting into arguments or arguments that could lead to drama, as this is usually a sign of an unhealthy interaction. Instead, redirect the conversation to a neutral topic, or disconnect if the interaction becomes unhealthy. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who fights monsters must be careful not to become one in the process. And if you look into an abyss for a long time, the abyss also looks inside you." These words have incredible force in this advice, because you can't let a toxic person take control of you, or even the conversation, because you are. Fear of the toxic person's reaction is another common obstacle. If this person often resorts to manipulation or anger to control the situation, it's understandable that you'll feel intimidated. However, Giving in to their demands only perpetuates the cycle of toxicity. Before ending with this point, I want to leave you with a quote from Nelson Mandela, who said, "You don't have to fear difficulties, you have to face them." Setting and maintaining clear boundaries with toxic people is a critical step to your recovery and well-being. Although this process can be challenging, remember that you deserve to be treated with respect and consideration. Strategy number 2, zero contact. If setting limits on those toxic people didn't work for you, this advice is the most suitable for you. And zero contact is everything to keep away those people who ruin your peace or who make a lot of noise in your life. Both psychology and Stoic philosophy agree on a crucial point for mental health: the need to stay away from people and situations that cause us harm. This practice, known as zero contact, is based on the idea that we cannot control the behavior of others, but we can control our environment and the people we interact with. Zero contact will bring benefits to your life, I assure you. Among them, it will reduce stress and anxiety. It will improve your self-esteem and confidence. It will support your mental and emotional health. It will even allow you to focus on positive and healthy relationships. You only owe 1. Identify toxic people or situations. 2. Analyze how they make you feel. 3. Observe if he constantly manipulates, controls, or criticizes you. And 4. Evaluate if they generate guilt, stress, or anxiety. This is not an act of cowardice, but an act of self-love. Don't feel guilty about protecting yourself. Prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. Epictetus, a Stoic sage from whom we must learn, once said, "Do not be carried away by the impression that you are doing wrong by not pleasing others, because if you do, you'll hurt yourself." Even Sigmund Freud, father of psychoanalysis, said, "The price of happiness is the ability to detach oneself." Remember that zero contact is not a magic bullet, but it is a powerful tool to protect your well-being. If you find yourself in a situation that causes you harm, do not hesitate to make the decision to walk away and seek the support you need. Strategy number 3, recognize the traits that make you easy prey. Being a victim of toxic people can be a painful and exhausting experience. However, the first step to breaking free from this cycle is to recognize the traits that make you vulnerable to these types of situations. It does not imply assuming responsibility or blame for the abuse. It's about understanding how your own characteristics can be used against you. Example: is your need to please or your fear of stirring things up what keeps you tongue-tied when your friend makes you a victim of her bad mood? Use cold processing to think about the interactions you've had with the person making you unhappy, focusing on why you felt the way you did, not what you felt, and see if you can discern a pattern. Daughters with insecure attachment often mistake someone's need to control and their grandiosity for strength and perseverance, and they can easily find themselves trapped by someone toxic. If that's the case, you should pay attention. What factors increase your vulnerability? See. 1. Low self-esteem. People with low self-esteem may have difficulty setting boundaries and defending themselves from abuse. 2. The need for approval. Those who constantly seek approval from others may be more likely to tolerate inappropriate behavior. 3. Fear of conflict. Fear of confrontation can prevent people from voicing their needs and standing up for themselves. 4. Lack of experience in healthy relationships. Those who have not had the opportunity to live healthy relationships may not know how to identify and avoid toxic relationships. 5. History of abuse. People who have been abused in the past may be more likely to tolerate abusive behavior in the present. And 6. Insecure attachment. People with insecure attachment may have difficulty trusting others and establishing healthy relationships. It's important to remember that these are just a few examples, and not everyone who experiences these factors will fall victim to toxic people. However, knowing these factors can help you identify if you're vulnerable and take steps to protect yourself. How to protect yourself from toxic people? First, develop healthy self-esteem. Self-esteem is the perception we have of ourselves, and it is fundamental for our emotional well-being. Healthy self-esteem allows us to feel safe, valuable, and able to face life's challenges. How to develop healthy self-esteem? Get to know yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, your values, and what makes you unique. Accept yourself as you are, with your defects and virtues. Don't compare yourself to others. Be kind to yourself, especially when you make mistakes. Focus on your accomplishments and the good things in your life. Get enough sleep, eat healthy, exercise, and make time for activities that make you happy. Now, what's next to protect us from toxic people? Keep watching the video that I have all the solutions for you. But before we go any further, remember that you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. Don't hesitate to take steps to protect your emotional well-being. These elements can make a person more susceptible to manipulations and negative behavior from others. It is important to develop a strong sense of identity and self-respect to protect against toxic influences. Strategy number 4. Explore your reactivity. Understanding your relationship reactivity is critical to your emotional well-being. From psychology and Stoicism, we can analyze how your reactions can influence dynamics with controlling or bullying people. Again, without blaming yourself for the dynamic, you should look at both the degree to which you overreact and underreact in the relationship. Or you can, unknowingly, intensify the dynamic and keep it going. A controlling or bully person will consider your insufficient reaction as permission to continue treating you in exactly the same way. People with an anxious attachment style tend to be hypervigilant about signs that the relationship is heading for ruin and often become angry and vituperative when they feel threatened. This type of overreaction is likely to make a narcissist feel powerful and inspired to continue their games. Stoic philosophy teaches that we can only control our own emotions and actions, not those of others. Focusing on rationality and objective analysis of the situation can help you respond calmly and effectively. In addition, developing virtue and self-control allows you to remain calm and composure in the face of provocations. Of course, very easy to say, but how to apply what I am telling you? Observe your reactions first. Pay attention to how you react to controlling or bullying people. Do you get angry, feel guilty, or stay silent? Second, identify the patterns. Are there certain types of behavior that trigger your emotional reactions? Third, develop coping strategies. Practice breathing, meditation, or mindfulness techniques to manage your emotions. 4. Set clear boundaries. Define which behaviors you will and won't tolerate in relationships. And 5th step, communicate assertively. Express your needs and feelings clearly and directly. Use the if-then thinking of emboldening the implementation of your plans. Prepare by focusing on what you will do if an altercation occurs, using the formula if X, then Y. For example, if my friend makes an unpleasant comment, then I'm going to say to him, "Why would you say something so hurtful?" If my mother denies what she told me, then I'll just say, "You can't beat me by making me believe that. It didn't happen." This is not easy and takes practice, but defending your perception is important. Remember, Seneca said, "Anger is an enemy that attacks its own owner." Many people find themselves in similar situations. With the right knowledge and tools, you can learn how to manage your emotions, set boundaries, and build healthy relationships. Strategy number 5. Resist the urge to fix everything. The desire to help others in difficulty is natural, but it can be exhausting if clear boundaries are not set. From psychology and Stoicism, we can explore how resisting the urge to fix everything can benefit both you and the person who needs help. First, it's important to respect others' boundaries and not take responsibility for their problems. Second, trying to fix it all can lead to codependency, a dynamic in which both people become dependent on the relationship. And 3, allowing people to solve their own problems helps them develop their autonomy and self-esteem. Now, Stoic philosophy teaches us that we can only control our own actions and thoughts, not those of others. So we must accept that we can't fix all problems, frees us from frustration and anxiety. Instead, what can we do? I suggest you focus on developing the virtue and wisdom that allows you to discern when it is appropriate to help and when it is not. But far from discerning when it is appropriate to help, the first thing we must do is establish the appropriate limits, always with respect, and making it clear that your interests are ahead of anyone else. You are not responsible for solving the problems of others. Trust that other people are capable of creating or finding their own solutions. In case you want to help because that's your Stoic nature, which is not bad, you can ask the person how you can help them, but offer concrete support. And before continuing with the next point, remember the expression, "Neither my circus nor my monkeys." With this, I want to tell you, do not get involved in problems that do not correspond to you. Strategy number 6, to become aware of everything it has done to me. To start distancing yourself from toxic people or situations, it's crucial to first recognize their negative impact on our lives. This can be done by asking ourselves how these relationships or situations disturb our inner peace and prevent us from growing as individuals. Once this is identified, we can take conscious steps to set healthy boundaries or remove ourselves completely from the source of toxicity. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus remind us that it is not facts that disturb people, but their judgments about facts. This quote underscores the idea that our perception of situations can be more damaging than the situation itself. In line with this, modern psychologist Marsha Linehan developed dialectical behavior therapy, which includes strategies to manage intense emotions and improve interpersonal relationships. Both psychology and Stoicism agree on the importance of reflecting on the reasons why we want to get rid of people or situations that harm us. This process of introspection allows us to strengthen our resolve and take steps to protect our well-being. Okay, to work on this aspect, I need you to ask yourself how the relationship with the person or situation affects you, allows you to make conscious decisions. Assess the impact on your self-esteem, confidence, and mental health. This is crucial to identifying how harmful the person in your life is. Assessing the situation objectively allows you to discern whether the relationship or situation is compatible with your values. The next step is to understand the stages of change. This will help you navigate the separation process with greater understanding. Acting virtuously involves protecting your emotional well-being and avoiding relationships that harm you. Stoic philosophy reminds you to focus on what you can control, your thoughts and actions. Now, the next thing I'll do is give you some tools that you can use to facilitate your work-life balance. That is, with these tools, which are really a series of questions that you'll ask yourself, you'll enact the conclusion. At this moment, you will be able to identify that toxic person. Questioner: how does the relationship or situation make you feel? Do you feel respected, valued, and appreciated? Does the relationship or situation bring you closer to your goals and dreams? Does it generate stress, anxiety, or depression? Do you feel trapped or out of control? Have you tried to improve the situation without success? Nathaniel Branden once said, "Self-esteem is the experience of being competent to face life's basic challenges and of being worthy of happiness." Strategy number 7, thinking about what I want to leave it for. Why should you stay away? What is happening in your life that needs to be turned upside down? I know it's hard to get out of a toxic relationship, however, ask yourself, is it in your best interest to continue? Do you deserve toxic attitudes in your life? Is that what you want for yourself for the rest of what you live? Will you lose the time of happiness to have only sadness? Reasons for separating from toxic people or situations are: 1. Preserve mental health. Stress, anxiety, and depression are just some of the negative effects that toxic people and situations can have on our mental state. 2. Strengthen self-esteem. Constant criticism, manipulation, or disrespect can erode our self-esteem and make us feel less valuable. 3. Protect physical health. The impact of stress and negativity on our bodies can be significant, increasing the risk of physical illness. 4. Cultivate healthy relationships. Surrounding ourselves with positive and supportive people is essential for our emotional well-being. 5. Living a life with purpose. Moving away from what harms us allows us to focus on what really matters and build a more meaningful life. Objectively assessing the situation and its consequences helps you discern whether it is necessary to walk away. Defining what type of behavior you will and won't tolerate is critical to protecting yourself. However, this process can be gradual and require time and effort. Don't despair. Don't blame yourself either. You're not responsible for the behavior of others. And always prioritize your physical and mental well-being during this process. So look for support from people who appreciate you and make you feel good, and recognize and celebrate every breakthrough you make on your path to a healthier life. Strategy number 8, do not fall into cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort we feel when our beliefs, values, or actions don't match. In the case of toxic people, we can fall into this trap by trying to justify their behavior or deny their negative impact on our lives. So, did you understand why it is important to avoid cognitive dissonance? First, the discomfort generated by cognitive dissonance can increase stress, anxiety, and depression. Second, if we avoid this effect, when we recognize the negative impact of toxic people, we can take steps to protect ourselves. By avoiding justifying toxic behavior, we value ourselves and defend our dignity. It allows us to set clear boundaries and surround ourselves with people who support us. However, in order not to fall into cognitive dissonance, it is crucial to be aware of our beliefs and values and to act in a way that is consistent with them. This involves recognizing and resisting the negative influence of toxic people. Assess the impact on your well-being. How do you feel after interacting with the person? Then analyze the situation objectively. Is it compatible with your values and principles? It's important that you don't minimize or deny the problem. Accept reality and its consequences. After this, set clear boundaries. How? Define what kind of behavior you will tolerate and what you won't. Take care of yourself and seek support if you need it. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. Strategy number 9. Trust your gut. Analyzing human behavior from a Stoic and psychological perspective requires a deep understanding of our emotions and reactions to the situations we face. For people with insecure attachment who are in harmful relationships, it's essential to recognize the importance of self-confidence and self-judgment. From a Stoic approach, we might recall again the teaching of Epictetus. It is not the facts that disturb people, but their judgments about the facts. This suggests that the perception of toxic actions and the rationalization of them are at the core of the problem. Stoic practice invites us to examine our thoughts and question whether we are empowering others to define our worth and perceptions. In psychological terms, it is crucial to develop healthy self-esteem and set clear boundaries. Cognitive behavioral therapy can be helpful in challenging and changing negative thought patterns, such as the tendency to excuse or rationalize toxic behavior. Example: how do we rationalize toxic behavior? With comments like, "He's just kidding, he doesn't mean it." We also have a tendency to minimize the damage by saying, "It wasn't that bad, I'm exaggerating," or even blaming themselves. "If I were more understanding, this wouldn't happen." To solve this problem, one can start by strengthening one's self-confidence through positive affirmations and reminders of one's abilities and achievements. Additionally, looking for examples of healthy relationships and effective communication can serve as a role model. In short, facing these situations requires a balanced approach that combines Stoic wisdom with practical psychological strategies, always trusting our instinct to guide us towards what is best for our well-being. Strategy number 10. Beware of the fallacy of the missing fund. If you find yourself stuck in a relationship that hurts you, the lost fund fallacy may be to blame. This tendency leads us to cling to irrecoverable investments, such as time, effort, or money, even when the relationship no longer benefits us. As the work of Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky shows, humans are notorious for being reluctant to lose, preferring to hold on to what they have in the short term, even if giving up a little will give them more in the long run. Why do we fall into this trap? Because we prefer to avoid losing what we already have, even if it means sacrificing greater well-being in the long run. Fear of the unknown or an uncertain future also intimidates us, so we cling to the familiar even if it's painful. And we believe that we must recover our investments, ignoring that time and effort are already lost. How does the fallacy of the lost fund affect relationships? 1. It keeps us in relationships that make us unhappy. 2. It prevents us from making rational decisions about our future. And 3. It makes us tolerate abusive or manipulative behavior. How to free yourself from the fallacy of the lost fund? Of course, whatever the investment is, you can't get it back under any circumstances, whether it's the years you put into a job or a relationship, or the money you put into your car or company failing that, so there's no real logic to the thought. This fallacy has been used to justify wars, to maintain cars that have long since outstripped their usefulness, and all sorts of lousy relationships and marriages. Well, to counter the lost fund fallacy, it is helpful to take a more rational and objective perspective. We must evaluate our current situations based on their present merit and future potential, not on what we have previously invested. Ask yourself if your investment can really be recouped. Visualize a life without the toxic relationship. Analyze if the relationship brings you value and well-being. Explore other possibilities for your life. And finally, choose what makes you happy, even if it means letting go of the known. For example, instead of thinking about everything you've put into a toxic relationship, consider what you could gain by leaving it. Peace of mind, opportunities for healthy new relationships, and greater overall well-being. Remember, time and effort already invested cannot be recovered, and clinging to a toxic relationship will only cause you more pain. You deserve a full and happy life. Strategy number 11. Recognize the power of intermittent reinforcement. You may think of yourself more of the glass half empty type of person than the glass half full, but research shows that in general, humans are overly optimistic. We tend to see one more near loss as a near win. This is what keeps people on slot machines. When 3 symbols line up, they take it as a sign that the 4th will be displayed shortly. There's an evolutionary reason behind this. When life's challenges were largely physical, think of the hunter with the bow and arrow, staying encouraged enough to keep going and turn near victory into a real one was a good thing. In addition, we are more motivated to hold on paradoxically when we get what we want part of the time. Well, maybe you haven't quite understood what I want to tell you, so let's get right into the topic. How does intermittent reinforcement work? Well, with intermittent effort comes unpredictable rewards. They are received randomly, creating uncertainty and increasing expectation. This is observed in a toxic person in a relationship when they come with a detail for their partner, but the rest is a complete donkey. The occasional reward will release dopamine into your body, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation. Obviously, this is addictive. Then you will generate attachment and compulsive behavior. That is, the search for the reward leads us to repeat the action, even if the result is mostly negative. That's what B.F. Skinner demonstrated with 3 very hungry rats, each in its own cage, with a lever that delivered food when pressed. In the first cage, the lever always delivered food, and with that understanding, the rat was calm. In the second cage, the crowbar never delivered food. That rat absorbed the lesson and lost interest. But in the third cage, the lever worked randomly, and the rat was fixed and fully hooked. He pushed the lever constantly. That's the intermittent reinforcement. Unfortunately, this also works in human relationships. When a toxic person actually does something nice, your heart jumps, your optimism increases, and you think, we're going through a rough patch. He understands that once in a while, he does not make a pattern, and this must be taken into account. Strategy number 12. Protect those boundaries or plan an exit strategy. If it's someone you need to interact with regularly, such as a colleague or family member, it's crucial to communicate your boundaries in a respectful and professional manner. People who struggle with insecure attachment may have difficulty understanding and respecting boundaries, so it's important to be clear and consistent. You don't need to be rude or confrontational. Maintaining a professional and calm posture is key. In the workplace, be sure to document your interactions and follow established procedures. For example, if a colleague comments about your personal life inappropriately, you might respond, "I appreciate your observations about work, but I prefer not to have personal comments made. My private life does not affect my work performance." In the case of a family member who makes hurtful comments disguised as humor, you might say, "I understand it may be a joke, but I don't find it funny. I may not be perfect in certain aspects, but my family is fine, and that's the most important thing." With toxic people in general, if the situation doesn't improve, consider planning an exit strategy to protect your well-being. To do this, you need to limit interactions to what is strictly necessary and apply something called emotional distancing. That is, not allowing the toxic person to affect your emotional state. And before you move on to the last strategy in this video, listen to what Brené Brown said. Boundaries are simply a way of saying, "I am important and my needs matter." This phrase underscores the importance of setting personal boundaries as an act of self-affirmation and self-respect. Limits not only serve to communicate to others how much we are willing to tolerate certain behaviors, but they are also an essential tool for self-care and self-esteem. By declaring what is acceptable and what is not in our interactions, we are valuing our own emotions and needs, which is critical to maintaining healthy and balanced relationships. Strategy number 13. Stop waiting for the change of the toxic. Tired of waiting for the toxic person in your life to change? It's time to accept a harsh reality. Change is not up to you. People don't change unless they want to deeply and are willing to do the necessary work. Waiting for change keeps you trapped. Not only does it rob you of time and energy, but it also affects your self-esteem by believing that the problem is you makes you vulnerable to manipulation and abuse. Uncertainty and constant hope generate stress and anxiety. So take control of your life. Acknowledge reality. Set clear boundaries, such as what kind of behavior you will tolerate and what you won't. And what I have been telling you throughout the video, prioritize your well-being. Do not feel responsible for the happiness of others. If the person doesn't respect your boundaries, walk away. Melody Beatty. Love doesn't mean tolerating abuse. Don't normalize abusive behavior. This is especially important if you've been in a toxic relationship for a long time, or if you grew up with people who used words as weapons. You or other family members may have been degraded, marginalized, or discarded, and then rationalized their behavior by saying, "It's just words," denying that they have ever been said, or affirming that the real problem was your sensitivity. Well, follow these strategies and get rid of toxic people who disturb the peace of your life. It's time to say goodbye. See you in an upcoming video.